legends are made. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made.
Good day, everybody. So today we're working on the Cessna 170. We got it in the shop right now. We had some electrical glitches with it. Thought it was an alternator, but we swapped that out. It's not the alternator. So we got it in the shop. The plan is to replace all the fuses that were in the plane. We're going to put in circuit breakers. We had some issues with the radio, which I think I may have spoken about in an earlier video. They're going to try to remedy that issue as well. And so it's a rainy day and we are at home. So I figured today would be a great opportunity to work on a few things. One of the things that I'm trying to rebuild is my sun visors. And of course, I'm also doing all the interior in the aircraft. And depending on how bad the electrical issues or whatever will determine whether or not we purchase new seats or attempt to build them, which I don't know how that's going to work out, because yesterday I got my wife's sewing machine out, and for the very first time I made a sewing machine work. So you know, I'm also a YouTube mechanic, and apparently now I'm a YouTube upholsterer. So watched a couple videos on how to do this. And so we're going to attempt to do it today, and I'll show you a little bit of the process real quick of what I'm trying to do. Stand by. All right, so this is, let me show you what we got. This is what we were working with. I've already taken it off the sun visor. That was the material that was on the old sun visor. That's the old sun visor innards there. And what we're doing is making a cardboard template here, and we're going to put, I couldn't find any foam, which I really don't need a whole lot anyway, to put on the back of that, but y'all going to laugh at me. But I did find some old packing material, which is about the same thickness as a felt to put on the back, because I don't want it to be real thick and foamy anyway. So I'm just going to put that on the back just to kind of give it a little bit of, you know, a good touch to it. And then I'm going to cut my patterns out. We're going to try to wrap this up with some of this here luxurious black pleather, food leather. And then I'll try to keep you guys involved in the process. All right, so now we got the two templates because we have two sun visors. And I'm going to use these templates, and we're going to cut the foaming material that we're going to put on the back of the pleather. And then we will use all that to get our pattern for the pleather, and we'll show you all that. And of course, the foam's going to be pretty self-explanatory, but once we do the patterning and everything, I'll show that to you as well. All right, yeah, so here's our foam here, and I'm just going to take my pen here and just kind of trace around this, just like I did the cardboard, and then we're going to glue that on the back of the cardboard. All right, so this is the stuff that I'm using for everything, and like I said, it works perfect. Like, you put it on, you let it sit there for maybe a minute, depending on how much of it you use. And so far, that's the best stuff that I've been using for these little projects. So anyways, we'll get this foam glued on here, and then we'll show you there's the foam templates, and it's just going to lay on top of here, and then we'll move forward to the leather. All right, so we got this glued on. I'll show you what we got here. So there's the foam side, and that's the back side. So I cut this out earlier, just messing around. I actually jacked it up because according to the video I made, when you put this on, when you put this on, there should be like a half inch overhang on it. And that overhang is what you're going to be sewing with. I'm going to go back and watch the video again and make sure we're doing this correctly, and then I'll get back with you. All right, so I went back and reviewed the video. We kind of messed up a little bit here. And what was supposed to happen, stand by, is the whole edge of this should have hung off of that piece. approximately a 1/2 inch. And what we did, we made the cardboard here exactly the same size as that piece. But I'm going to try, which we don't have the right foot anyway, to do what the upholsterer online was doing. So I'm going to try to save this because I got a little extra material here. So I'm just going to try to fold it over, and I want to leave enough to where I can sew right there and make a seam. And we're going to hope that fixes it. And if it does, then hoorah. If not, we'll go at it again. All right, so we got that glued on. I'm going to let that sit for just a second because this has got to go over that. And then once we get it on there, we'll see how it works out. So stand by. All right, so I got this on here, and I don't think it's going to work. I'm going to go ahead and try to sew it anyway, just to kind of get, if you look there, it kind of looks crappy. We just didn't do it right. But I'm going to try to put a seam in it just to see what happens, and probably going to redo it, though. All right, so I just learned a couple of things. One, my sewing machine is not built for this crap, because it's just not, one, it's not feeding the material through, and I'm pretty sure I broke the needle. And two is, it's just, yeah, it's not going to work. So I got a couple options. I'm going to figure out something else to do with this, or I'm just going to have to bite the bullet and buy some new visors, which is, it's really what I want to do anyway. But they're like new ones, or if you get the nice ones, they're, I forget that it starts with an R, Rosen something other. But for this airplane, I think they're like $600 a pair. But they're not these old like car type visors. These are actually the ones I'm talking about are really nice. But it's just like everything else on an airplane. Some of y'all looking at my shirt. There you go. Just so you know, I'm not advertising anything. But anything for an airplane is like stupid ridiculous. New seats, for instance. The company that I would love to use is actually here in the Wasilla area. Their name, the company's called Sport Seats. They make an excellent product. You know, they are probably the premium seat maker in aircraft seats today for small aircraft anyway, Cessnas and Pipers. But if I get their, I guess the most economical, I don't want to say cheap, but the most economical seat that they make, the fabric seats and everything, just for the seat cushions and everything, which it's basically a seat cushion replacement system is what it is. You keep your seat frames, you remove all the old upholstery, but the good thing about theirs is those literally just slide onto the frame of the seats, and they Velcro over the bottom of it, and then the bottom seat, you know, they got a strap that holds everything on. It's completely FAA compliant. You know, they went through all the garbage to get all that crap done. So anyways, long story short, if you get the fabric seats, which is the most economical seat that they offer, for my aircraft, for 2 front seats and a bench seat in the back, I think I'm looking at almost $6,000 just for those 3 seats. And like I said, there's no frame. It's just the cushions, and you're basically replacing the cushions on your seat. And they get rid of all the springs. They're a little bit lighter, but I mean, it's not enough to pay $6,000 for people. And if you want the leather seats, you're going to pay upwards, I think, of $7,000 for 3 seats to go into an airplane. And then you got to do the labor yourself. So I just don't see it. They're great seats. They're very comfortable, but you know, I just don't see it, guys. I think it's stuff like that's the reason, you know, everybody's like, oh, aviation's a rich man's sport, because they're pricing everything so high that you can't afford to buy it unless you just got money to throw away. I can't necessarily blame the companies for that, because, you know, they have to go through all this paperwork and all this garbage with the FAA to be able to sell their equipment and put it in an airplane, because the FAA thinks that they have to regulate literally everything that goes onto an airplane. The only reason I'm able to do some of the stuff that I'm doing with my plane is my plane was built in 1952 prior to some of these regulations that came out. This plane falls up under a regulation called CAR 3. And as long as you can provide a burn certificate for the paperwork, or excuse me, for the material, you can pretty much make your own upholstery and everything inside your airplane. And I really don't think that the burn certificates or whatever, they test all this crap to make sure it's self-extinguishing and stuff. But I don't even know that anybody's ever really looked at that. You know, when you do your own upholstery, you just do your own upholstery. Now, if I was doing a Cessna Caravan or something, then this would not be allowed because those airplanes were built under a whole new regulation system. Anyways, with that said, sometimes it's better to have an old airplane because of that, because you can do more of the stuff yourself, and there's more modifications that you can make to the aircraft versus these new aircrafts. The FAA won't let you do anything hardly. So, you know, I understand the purpose of the FAA, but, you know, it's like any government program, in my humble opinion. You need to kind of get the hell out of the way and let us, you know, improve and let the public sector do things. Like, I know we got the experimentals. The experimental airplanes, they do drive a lot of the industries. They do build a lot of equipment that, you know, is finding its way into mainstream equipment, you know, such as AV-30s, for instance. I think Univair started out as experimental only. Now they're building certified instrument panels, glass panels that you can put in your aircraft. But the government makes it so hard to get to that point to where by the time you get there, the expense of replacing that piece of equipment and putting it into your aircraft, is absolutely insane. I think a couple AV-30s, which those of you who may not know, is, you know, it's an electronic instrument, just like any other instrument in your panel, but it replaces a couple instruments. But my memory serves me correctly, two of those things I think is upward of $6,000. Maybe a little cheaper for the AV-30s, but the Garmin version, which in my personal opinion isn't quite as nice. I know a lot of people love Garmin, but you're looking two of those damn things. By the time you pay labor to get it put in and everything, you're close to $10,000 just for two of these little instruments. And that's ridiculous, you know, absolutely ridiculous. And the FAA just keeps pushing these rules, and they're making it to where your average person we can't get into aviation. So with that said, you know, a lot of this stuff I'm trying to do myself. I did find there's a company called AirTex. They make beautiful seats. They're, I guess, similar to the sports seats. Takes a little bit more, maybe a little bit more work to get them on, but the concept is the same, and they make some really good interiors. But I can do both the front seats and my back seat for $2,000, you know, versus $6,000 for the sports seats. And so obviously that's probably the way I'm going to go. I can't justify spending $6,000-$7,000 for three seats. It's retarded, people. But anyways, I'll finish my rant. What are we going to do with this? I don't know. I may try something else real quick. Otherwise, I'll just buy some new sun visors. You know, why not? I think I bought like $8 a yard of fabric yesterday from Walmart. And these things were just sitting in my shop anyway. So I'll experiment a little bit more. If I come up with something, I'll let you know. If not, then, you know, we'll move on and try something else. I don't know. I don't even know how much they charge for sun visors at Univair. But I'm sure I'll probably just go with the really nice ones. They're ridiculously expensive again. However, these are made out of some solid materials. And, you know, they'll probably outlast me on the aircraft. So that may be the way we go. But right now, you know, my biggest concern is getting the airplane finished up, getting the electrical issues addressed and updated. And hopefully we'll be back in the air by this time next week. I'm hoping for. So, anyways, like I said, if I get anything else right here, I'll show you what I got. And then, yeah, thanks.
This is how legends are made.